Culips episode, Chatterbox 276. The title is Evaluating Different Sources of Listening Materials. In this episode, Andrew and Jeremy evaluated the pros and cons of studying English with different types of listening materials, like the radio, podcasts, and audiobooks. First, they kick things off by evaluating the radio. If you study with the radio, the pros are that it's easy to access. You just turn it on and you are off to the races. And the content is very interesting. But on the other hand, it is difficult. Some radio is often focused on politics and current events and world events. And there are no transcripts or records of the show that you can study with later. Next, they talked about podcasts. Huge benefit of podcasts are that there are so many different genres, so many different topics, and you can find a podcast about anything that interests you. And podcasts are always crystal clear, and it's also great for repetitive listening. Since you have downloaded it onto your phone, it is easy to play again and again and again. And a huge benefit about podcasts is that they are free. They are super free. But they talked about some of the disadvantages of podcasts too. For most podcasts, there are no transcripts. And sometimes the podcast can be very, very long, sometimes 2 or 3 hours. And another disadvantage that comes to mind is that many podcasts have multiple hosts, multiple guests. Because of this, they will be talking over each other, they'll be cutting each other off, and they'll be laughing a lot. And that can be hard for everyone to follow, even native speakers. Finally, they evaluated a final listening material, which is audiobooks. Reading is one of the better ways to improve your vocabulary. You get exposed of a lot of more advanced and more specialized vocabulary that you don't really hear in everyday casual conversation. So audiobooks are great for pushing yourself to get to the next level and improving your vocabulary, especially if you pair it with reading. But if you study with audiobooks, the cons are that the language is difficult and it is hard to focus on the listening. But the major disadvantage of studying with audiobooks is that they are very, very expensive. And I think that's all for this episode. And I think I will wrap things up here. Bye.